Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bitcoin in the UK, the road ahead. Is there even a road, I suppose, is the question we're going to address on this panel today. We've had a great chat backstage with these fine gentlemen, and we have some interesting insights from all across the UK, as well as the Czech Republic. So before we get into the panel today, I'd like to just go down the line very quickly and do a very quick intro and briefly describe the road ahead in your own words. So, for example, my name is Joe. I am a video journalist, Bitcoin journalist. No idea what we are, but we're working with Bitcoin journalists right now. And the road ahead for me is potholed, it is bumpy, and it is a little bit bleak. Sorry to say. Should we go to you first, Alan?
I'm very. First of all, I just want to say grateful to everyone for staying here. I'm very conscious that we are the difference between them and the bar. So we'll be as quick as we can. My name is Alan Smith. I run a TradFi wealth management business based in London, and I also host two popular podcasts. The road ahead, uphill.
Uphill. Cool. We will be positive at the end, I promise. A bit of doom first, though. Sam.
Sam Roberts, Cartwright Corporate Treasury. So we advise and implement asset strategies, particularly including Bitcoin, for institutions, corporate pension schemes, charities. So the road ahead. So, yeah, I think you nicked my pothole.
I feel really
fair enough.
A joke. I'm sorry, mate.
That's why you should be very careful what you say backstage. But I think there is a massive hole in the road to sort of accentuate that point. However, once we get past the hole, I think things will look a lot flatter and easier, maybe even downhill. But we've got a big hole to get over first.
Okay, wouldn't that be nice? Thank you, Sam. And Martin.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Martin. I'm from Czech Republic, and I co-founded ChainCamp, the biggest Bitcoin-only conference in Czech Republic, BTC Prague, the biggest Bitcoin conference on the continent, and Bitcoin Corporate Day as an answer for those institutions and TradFi people coming to the Bitcoin, so to be sure that we learn them well. And the road ahead, I believe that somebody needs to take picks and shovels and build the road first, because from my perspective from Czech Republic, it's not looking well here in the UK.
Round of applause to Martin. Why not? Thank you, Martin. A shining light in the Czech and European, actually, Bitcoin scene. Okay, so Alan and Sam, I think we can get a little bit doomy here, get a bit gloomy. Just how bad is it in the UK? And treat me, I mean, I left the UK in 2017. I now live in Portugal, where I've been for quite some years. And I like to come back to the UK a lot. Obviously, I still love the UK, and a lot of my family, my friends are still here. And I come to Bitcoin events often to check the pulse, check if there is a pulse. In the UK, and because what I consume online is a lot of effectively doom porn. It's like these podcasters and YouTubers are trying to find new and innovative ways to get me to click on something with some awful stat or tactic about the UK. So why don't you just lay it on thick first and be direct? What is it really like in the UK? Say someone my age in their early 30s trying to start out in the UK. What's it like? Sam, we'll go to you first.
We have a big problem, and some of that was discussed earlier. Liz Truss laid some of that out. We have a situation where the government is, maybe they don't look too out of control on the surface, but in terms of the way they're acting and what could be coming, they are a serious problem, whether it's financially or through civil liberties, been cracking down on those. So you're right, there's various doom porn, so to take your phrase. I think there is that, and some of that is clickbait, right? So we've got to be careful what we read. But the reason why most, or maybe all of us, are in this room today is because we can extrapolate where we are into the future, and it doesn't look particularly good. And we think we found, or we're looking for a solution to what could get us past that massive hole in the road. So I don't think we should underestimate the problem. I think we need to be realistic. But we also need to look for solutions as well, which we'll come on to. So pretty darn bad is my summary.
Gotcha. Okay, Alan, what would you like to add to that?
I endorse what Sam says. Anyone who operates in the UK right now, so I run a business which looks after business owners. We look after the finances of the corporate and personal family wealth of, I guess, affluent business owners in the UK. I also run a podcast called Bulletproof Entrepreneur, where I speak with, and these are generally successful people. And so I operate in that world, the kind of the SME world. There's just under 6 million small businesses in the UK. In the last 3 years, I haven't met one that is really positive and excited about where they are right now. Everyone is kind of battening down the hatches a little bit. Everyone's facing headwinds. Look, there's a great entrepreneurial spirit in the UK, but it feels like you're being attacked whatever way you turn. There are some absolute challenges within it. The other thing, I was interested in what Liz Truss was saying today, which is that what she refers to and is commonly known as the Blob, that kind of part of the government and the sort of central policy making unit, they, as they say, turkeys don't vote for Christmas. You're unlikely to get significant change. They're not going to sort of fire themselves. So I've just got this view, this theory. You've got to understand what a problem is before you are able to solve it. And there's a general sense when I speak to business owners, SME entrepreneurs right now, they're not quite sure what the problem is. And it's easy, and Twitter and X is a great place to just kind of raise your digital fist and say it's all shit and it's terrible. But you got to sort of go to the next level down and try to understand and ask questions as to what the problem is. And I just think there is some immediate opportunities to speak to people about, and this idea of, people have talked about it already, Bitcoin on the balance sheet, for example. There's a lot of people I know that hold significant cash on deposit right now. They're aware that it's melting like an ice cube, but it's not immediately apparent what they should do about it. And it's weird because they just accept it. Yeah. They recognize it, but they don't know what else there is. And so the opportunity, and these are some of the conversations, and again, I'm treading a fairly careful line because I operate within a regulated environment and a business, an FCA regulated business. And we've got to be very careful what we say, what's advice and what's guidance. But just to begin to help people to understand, elucidate the problem for them before we can begin to talk about solutions.
Yeah, very well put. I'd actually like to bring in Sam again before we go to Martin and your experience, because I think this is one of the key issues that a lot of people, as you say, Alan, they feel there's something wrong, but they're not capable even to point at what the problem is. And Sam, I have this rather naive impression of pension companies. I think that pension companies are also run by old people, and as a result, they're dealing with old people stuff. Must be the case. Never trust a journalist. But my sort of question here is, like, to what extent do the affluent, the wealthy boomers, the recipients of the Cantillon effect, to what extent do they realise there is a problem in the UK, or are they so happy with inflation and asset inflation because that's what's downstream of it, and they are cash rich still, they are still asset rich still. Are they aware of this this problem?
No, is a short answer. They there's a big, we think of the pensions industry, let's pick on them, the pensions industry more widely. So this is corporate pensions. There are some people, there's a small minority of people, as far as I can tell, that actually understand the real situation. The vast majority of the others are, do you know what? They're paid very well, thank you very much. And do you know what? They don't think outside of the box. They've been taught throughout the whole career that Keynes was right. And you just got, it's obvious, you've got an economy, you can just model it with a formula and move some bits around on a chart, and suddenly you can persuade everyone to act in a certain way. It's complete nonsense. But that is how they think. That is how they've been trained to think. That is what they've been paid very well to continue thinking and acting and advising or managing these big pools of money that are there for people's retirement. I don't think that they'll really be able to change their mind because, so I think you might have said it, they don't see a problem, and therefore they're not looking for a solution.
The world is changing fast, and your business is no exception. How you save, plan, and protect your future is shifting, and standing still now means falling behind. This is the reason we are launching the UK's first Bitcoin business network, and it exists to help UK businesses protect what they've built and turn Bitcoin into a genuine competitive advantage. It's a place for founders, entrepreneurs, and executives to share what's working, learn from people actually doing it, and help drive positive change across the UK. So if you are a business owner or an entrepreneur, hit the link down below to join the network and help shape the future of Bitcoin in the UK. Okay, let's get back to the video.
And presumably however hard it gets, they're never going to get that unless we go to somewhere like Martin's childhood growing up, during communism. So maybe you could speak to your experiences, not to suggest that we're going in that direction in the UK, but we had a nice talk backstage about how the Czech movement in particular in Bitcoin is so strong because you did go through such a challenging time within very recent living memory. And maybe you could speak to that, Martin.
Oh yeah, definitely. And maybe I'll use that analogy, and I believe you all know that, so to say, meme that says like hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, so weak men can create bad times and repeat again. We were in those hard times. And those period, the era of the communism that the Russians bring to our country with their oppressive regime, actually, those were the hard times. We luckily got over with the Velvet Revolution that happened in 1989. And those hard times created strong men like Václav Havel, our first Czechoslovakian democratic president, from the general perspective. Or in Bitcoin, like Stick and Slash, two geniuses that founded Satoshi Labs, and many, many other strong people who became curious again and who became educated enough because they were born and they lived significant part of their life in the oppressive communist regime, which was so bad that it made people to learn by themselves, to become curious, to basically understand that do not trust, verify, because we all knew that we can't trust party. They were just lying. And we are over those hard times. The people in Czech Republic became curious. They like to get education. They like to verify what government says. And because all of that, we have that strong man now that's making Czech Republic great again. It sounds funny because of that Trump administration and stuff. They should at least learn how to drink tea, right, before telling us something about Europe. But but like those hard times learned us that there is actually bright future. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. And now with Bitcoin, we are doing really well in Czech Republic. It's one of the last free countries on the continent. We have a tax law, no capital gain tax on Bitcoin, hold it for 3 or more years. Our national bank bought Bitcoin just quite recently, actually last week, or kind of. And there's a huge movement that works for Bitcoin, and it's all coming from the grassroots. It origin from the bottom, and it's growing up. It's teaching our politicians. So, and I'm getting to the road ahead again, which we discussed.
We can go positive.
I want to go positive, obviously, because it is positive. Because I believe that you are now in the hard times period, and you just need to stay strong. I know it might sound easy. There is obviously hard work behind it, but if you stay strong, you're gonna get to the good times again. So just don't get depressed by the present momentum. And what are the right steps? And Peter McCormack described it actually well. Bitcoin is a tool, and somebody needs to come pick it and work with it. And those I would like more like Sam and Alan to talk about the implications and the ways of doing, because they know way better than I do. I'm, again, from Czech Republic.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Thank you. Well put, well put. I guess the thread that's sort of the common theme here is education or lack thereof, and curiosity and lack thereof. And I want to bring up Alan's old tweets as an example here.
Here we go.
Sorry in advance, Alan. So as preparation for this panel, I hadn't met Alan before, and I was looking at his podcast, which you subscribe to, absolutely. It's called Bulletproof Entrepreneur. Do subscribe. There we go. We've got the shilling, so now I can take my mic, right? Okay. And I went back in 2014, 2015, around that time, Alan was calling Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme. Much like Michael Saylor had that famous tweet from 2012 or 13, which said Bitcoin's days are numbers. Of course, we all now know that Michael Saylor launched one of the biggest, is the biggest Bitcoin treasury company in the world and is the most bullish Bitcoin billionaire. Alan is now talking vocally about Bitcoin on his podcast, despite the fact that 2 of the podcasts are not necessarily convinced, or 3 of them are not necessarily convinced. So I'm leading up to a question, I promise. So what was it that gave you this curiosity at the time, given that you were in this wealth management field? And therefore, how can we spread that curiosity across the rest of the UK? Because I think personally, that is one of the key ingredients we are missing in this country, is to be more curious. It's to ask more questions and to look a bit deeper. Because clearly you did, because you reneged on your beliefs from 2014, 2015.
Yeah, what's that saying? When the information changes, I change my mind or something. So I spent time. So you're right. You dropped that one on me backstage, and he's been trawling through all my past tweets for the last 10 years. I thought, God forbid.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, and so, yeah, so that's true. And because I've grown up I've spent all my life in traditional finance, and there is not a perceived problem in that, because you buy global equities, you buy kind of human ingenuity through the capital markets, and you sit and you hold it forever, and you tend to, or everything that we've been told is your assets grow ahead of inflation, and it is a Cantillon effect, and you are closer to it. So I personally and my clients don't necessarily feel any pain, or certainly not perceived pain on a regular basis. But there's a couple of things. You tend to, because I've got a natural spirit of curiosity, and I think everyone in this room, the fact that the very fact that everyone is here, I'm sure have got that innate sense of curiosity and a desire to learn. And so over time, bit by bit, there's a saying that everyone's against Bitcoin until they're for it. And I'm exactly that. And you can actually follow, if you follow the tweets I've done over the years, you'll actually see that transition appearing in real life, but that's just a personal thing. That's a kind of regardless of what it is, whether it's art, technology, science, sport. I'm quite keen to learn. You'll find that and I'm certainly not an early adopter. Far from it. I've gone from being definitely against Bitcoin, and the primary reason is because I didn't know about it, and so therefore I speak. I mean, of all people, I was most influenced by my dad, who would be a classic boomer or above that generation almost. And he came into people arrive at Bitcoin for different reasons. He came into it from a self-sovereignty, a lack of trust for banks and governments, etc. And he just said, I found this thing, I'm not sure really what it is, but it allows you to sort of control your own destiny, really. So he get me. My starting point was, I hope he's going to be okay, because I don't want him getting scammed by all these kind of shitcoin type things. But he kind of forced me over time and said, read this book. And so I did. And that was that transition. But as I say, I go back to my original point. You either got to encourage people to have that sense of curiosity. Several people have said it today. Peter Lane says it regularly. People haven't got the time to be curious. Who's got the time to read a 500-page book, for example, or to watch hours of video? So the other route to market is through identifying a pain point. And I do think the future is to try to get greater adoption, is to have people like me and Sam and others who are in that TradFi world, who've got a bit of a profile, who are able to influence people. And yes, I'm taking some bullets now because of the fact I've lifted my head above the parapet. And yet people do say, hang on a minute. You were just not long ago, you were saying this was a lot of nonsense. And so I, through the 2 podcasts I've got, one is focused on business owners and one is focused on the financial advice market. It's now the biggest podcast in that wealth management, financial planning sector. And slowly but surely, you've got people like, I think Dan's still here, Dan Parkinson, who's got his own kind of community as well. And we're trying to influence, because the retail advice market then influences tens and hundreds of thousands of retail investors, and bit by bit, but as I say, the point being, those are not suffering acute pain right now. So we've got to influence them. We've got to talk about their children. How are the kids going to get on the property ladder? All the various other points, because that boomer generation they don't feel compelled to learn because they're not suffering from pain. So you've got to come at it through education, curiosity, and identifying on their behalf what the next generation are going to suffer unless they take some action now.
And along the way, you might take a few bullets, as you mentioned.
And you have to accept it.
Okay. I mean, I kind of want to build off that for our last couple of last minutes here. What advice would you give the audience, as Alan has just done, Sam, to go away from this conference and to be inspired, maybe make a change, maybe take a few bullets in order to improve Bitcoin in the UK and improve its road ahead?
So I like the curiosity point, and certainly I found that was a key part of my journey, and I think it's a natural part of any early adopter type person. But then as we move into the early majority, that curiosity is more difficult. I think the key thing would be get off zero, and by that, yes, okay, buy a bit of Bitcoin, because once even if you got £10 worth of it, of anything, you then explore that, you hear the name more often, you're just naturally attracted. It's something quite interestingly psychological about it. But also get off zero in terms of look at the fragility of the money that we're used to, the fiat money we have. Look at whether it's your personal lifestyle, whether it's your business. Where are you at risk? Where is your business at risk because of fiat money? Is it the value draining away? Is it, maybe about the payment rails, or is it something else? And then just get off zero in terms of what is your contingency plan? And once you think through your contingency plan, maybe you'll think, actually, I don't want that as a plan B, I want that as a plan A. But you don't need to decide that yet. Just get thinking, get testing things out, get off zero.
Where are you at risk because of Bitcoin? Because of fiat, sorry. I love that.
Very, very risky. I mean, I would not want anything to do with it if I could help it.
Effectively get on zero fiat.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Martin, maybe some advice for the audience.
Yeah, and I start with my mission and my brother's mission and our team mission, which is building Bitcoin bridges across the Europe. We realize that Europe is not heading well. It's not only about United Kingdom and EU here. It's about the whole Europe. So we created a mission of building Bitcoin bridges, so to get Bitcoiners together, so we can grow together and learn from each other. And I want to empower you on staying strong, because again, those strong men create good times. And if you will have time, please come and join us in Prague, because we can together build there a new strong Bitcoin bridge across the channel. And we can make those hard times a win for you, for our kids, for future generations that will hopefully use Bitcoin as a future money and as a tool of freedom. So be patient and be strong. And I would really love to see you succeed.
Can I just add to that? And I'll conclude. We were talking about this backstage as well. There's a generally known phenomena of the frog in the boiling water, and that's what you asked at the beginning. What does the UK feel like? That's what it feels like. It's not the Czech Republic in the decades ago. It's just a bit uncomfortable, and it's getting more and more uncomfortable as every kind of day, month, year goes past. And if I was speaking to, I think this is a different audience, but if I'm speaking to somebody, a colleague or a client who's certainly in the business community, you're right. So the starting point for me nowadays is I send them Joe Bryan's video. I mean, invest half an hour of your life, for Christ's sake, and just begin to understand the problem. That articulates the problem, pretty succinctly and easily. And that would then lead you to the next stage, which is buy some Bitcoin. And if you run a business, it's the best way to hold, it's one of the better ways to hold Bitcoin. If you can buy it and just buy it simply and effectively. And again, one thing about the Bitcoin community, there is so much help. If you don't know how to start, you know how to start, you start asking people, and all you need to do is ask, and you get so much support and help and resource to keep you safe, to keep you on the right side of the legal things and the banks, and avoid being debanked, etc. But take that first action, because otherwise you're going to remain that frog in the boiling water. You need to jump out the boiling water.
Okay. And Bitcoin is that tool to get you out of the water.
Right.
Got it. Okay. This has been Bitcoin in the UK, the road ahead. Thank you so much to Sam, to Alan, and to Martin. Have a lovely rest of your evening. See you at the bar. The road ahead is that way and down. Thank you very much, everyone.